You live by it. So does Revive Men's Health with our Revive Promise for low T and ED. The Revive Promise means your tests and lab work are free when you begin treatment, and our low T and ED treatments are money-back guaranteed. Yes, that's right. We stand behind our treatments and our results. That's our promise to you. Revive Men's Health has successfully helped thousands of men with low T, ED, and sexual health issues since 2011. If you're experiencing symptoms like chronic low energy, less drive, sleep issues, weight gain, poor performance, bad moods, or ED, you need Revive. Don't settle. Get affordable, guaranteed, custom low T and ED solutions with lasting results from Salt Lake City's favorite men's clinic. And remember, there are no extra bills when you begin treatment. All labs and tests are free, and your low T and ED treatments are money-back guaranteed. Call Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City today to schedule your appointment. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. As 2023 comes to a close, my team and I are proud of the ways we have worked hard to serve the 1st District and represent your priorities in Congress. We have been laser focused on fighting inflation on the Ways and Means Committee, passing defense funding for Hill Air Force Base, and rooting out wasteful spending on the Budget Committee. I'm pushing legislation to increase affordability and price transparency in healthcare, lower taxes on middle-class families, advance the U.S.-Israel alliance, support Utah's recreational industry, and establish a Medal of Honor monument. And recently, I was elected to serve as vice chair of the House Republican Conference, the first Republican from Utah to ever be elected to House or Senate leadership. I'm honored to be in this role and look forward to elevating Utah issues at the leadership table. I'm hosting an interactive telephone town hall on Wednesday, December 6th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, where I will take your questions and engage on topics that matter most to Utahns. Tune in on Wednesday, December 6th at 1 p.m. by dialing 833-305-1678 and learn more on my website at blakemore.house.gov. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a fully engulfed vehicle fire in Parley's Canyon. You're going to see a lot of black smoke. Well, at least now fire crews have arrived on the scene and they are dousing it. So not as much black smoke, but it's still drifting in the air. This is eastbound I-80, about a mile after Mountaindale. They are over to the right, and that right lane is blocked to traffic. Enjoy Utah's beautiful snow and whole family fun with winter tubing at Soldier Hollow in Midway. Experience longer tubing lanes, shorter lines, and more fun. Book your session now at UtahOlympicLegacy.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high pressure system over the west means several inversion days before another storm moves in. It'll be partly cloudy with highs in the upper 40s today. And right now, we're already there. Cloudy, 48 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Becky Bruce, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to the expanded Inside Sources. Great to be with you for the next 2 hours. I'm Maura Carabello, and I'm filling in for our own Boyd Matheson. We'll be on today from 1 to 3, and I'm excited to be here. I will try and do what Boyd always does, which is dig a little deeper and think a little bigger, explore a little wider, and challenge our assumptions a little stronger and disagree a little better. I'm going to end with that disagree a little better, because who's been leading out on that phrase is our own Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Last year, many of us will remember that thousands of Utahns became homeless for the first time. There have been several news articles about that. Many of us are following the homeless issue quite frequently. And we're about to head into the colder nights. I think we've all felt that crispness in the air just when we're walking, and can we imagine having to spend the night? Their plight should be and is at the top of our minds. And today, Governor Cox had a really important announcement. He's made an agreement with local government to support a statewide approach to homelessness. This is big picture thinking. It would require an investment by the state legislature in next year's budget. And if that's approved, the total that he has outlined is about $168 million in spending and some really specific actionable categories. And we're starting the show out really big because we're very grateful to have Utah's Governor Spencer Cox on the phone with us. Governor Cox, thanks for joining Inside Sources.
Mara, thank you for having me. This was a big announcement today, and we know that here in Utah we care deeply about our most vulnerable people, especially those who are experiencing homelessness, and yet we're seeing this rise in homelessness and people who are fearful sometimes to walk down the streets because it's too dangerous, or play in our city parks, and that can't be the case either. We feel very strongly that we can be both compassionate and hold people accountable. Give people an opportunity to get off the streets and into housing and shelter and make sure our streets are safe for the people here. So I just feel grateful to live in a state where we realize we can do two things at once.
So you've had this real emphasis on balance between it being a statewide approach. You've appointed what we lovingly call Wayne Niederhauser as the homeless czar, but you've appointed a statewide leader. But tell us a little bit more. Let's dig a little deeper into what you're hoping to accomplish. What does the partnership with local city government look like?
Yeah, thank you. So several months ago, I asked my team to sit down because we, as you mentioned, we have done so much in this space over the past couple of years at the local level, the city level, county level, state level, the private sector, the nonprofit sector have all been engaged. But I asked my team to sit down and I wanted to do a thorough analysis of homelessness in the state, every phase of homelessness, and find out where the gaps existed. As you mentioned, sadly, we are a fast-growing state, but that means that we have several thousand people who are experiencing homelessness for the first time. And so that's what we did. We spent 2 months just diving into all of the details for the first time to come up with a comprehensive and balanced approach to homelessness. And we found out where those gaps are. So there are really three areas that we're focusing on. One, of course, is emergency shelter. I do not believe that we should allow unsanctioned camping anywhere in our state. It's not compassionate to let people die in the cold on the streets. And it's bad for law and order. It's bad for our residents here. And so we can't enforce the camping ordinances if we don't have a place for people to go. And so we've got $128 million that we're proposing in emergency shelters across the state to help increase the capacity there. We're also focusing on prevention. We know that we need to stop homelessness before it begins, and so we have money in there as well. And then the behavioral health side is so important. We have to increase the access to supportive services in our state. Too many people, we've done this crazy thing in our country where we got rid of our state hospital beds, and that's just moved people out onto the streets and into prisons. And we don't think that that's compassion as well, but we know we significantly need to increase the workforce and access to behavioral health. We're working with the courts as well for a new court for people who are struggling with mental health issues that maybe don't qualify to go to prison, but aren't getting other resources either to make sure that we can get them the resources that we need. So again, this is a very comprehensive and balanced approach to helping people in this space.
It seems to be. I want to dig a little into I love that you're focused on courts and behavioral health. $10.6 million in what would be called home quotes, which are less restrictive civil options. And I hope what our listeners know is that often the acute part is the most expensive version, right? Whether that's emergency rooms or fully loaded law enforcement, that's an expensive option. And Governor, what do you do? You think about this all the time, but what do you do with these issues where the symptoms are really acute and often what disrupt our social contract and how we interact with each other? But on these chronic problems, you really do have to invest in these really long leading things. How do you balance communicating with its taxpayers about investing in the long run, right? Which pays off so much, but also this need to make temporary circumstances get responded to.
I think this is one of the problems, and I'm so glad you asked it, Maura, because they're homeless. We say homelessness, and we just kind of have in our mind one thing, and it's not one thing. It's 1,000 things, and it's very different. There's kind of transitory or temporary homelessness where someone loses their job or loses a spouse, a loved one. Something bad happens in their life, and they struggle for a moment, but then they find their way back out, and that's what happens for most people. We have lots of programs. We're actually pretty good at that piece. The piece we're not good at are those who are suffering serious long-term issues, mental health, substance abuse, that they don't get back on their feet. And they are very expensive, just looking at it from kind of a cold ROI perspective. They end up in the emergency room over and over and over again. They end up in jail over and over and over again. They will do something. They'll go through the legal process. They end up in jail, usually overnight, and then they're right back out on the street. And that's where we are seeing the biggest problem, and it's the most expensive. And look, it's something we haven't been great at as a society. Let me give you a couple numbers that I kind of blew my mind. Back in the 50s and 60s, we had 3,000 state hospital beds. We called them asylum beds, institutionalized beds. Now, there were lots of problems with asylums, problems that we know about and things that we have fixed back in the day. But we only had about 800,000 people in the state, and we had 3,000 state hospital beds. Today, we have 3.3 million people in the state, and we have 300 state hospital beds. And these are, again, the most expensive, where people need to go to get treatment, to get help, where they may stay for many years and sometimes for the rest of their lives. And we can do that in a compassionate way, but it is expensive and it takes an investment. And we know it will pay off in the long run, both from a taxpayer perspective, because they're not going to emergency rooms, twice a week and ending up in jail 35 times during the year, but also from a civilized order sort of thing in protecting our streets and our parks and the things that are so important. And so we do have to have a significant investment there, and I'm hoping we can convince the legislature to help us out.
Governor Spencer Cox today has rolled out his statewide comprehensive plan for homelessness. Good luck with that, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Big ideas, what we're looking for, and Governor Cox has presented a big idea with comprehensiveness. If you haven't seen it, KSL has it up, and you can read the details of where he plans to spend the money. And so stay tuned with us, and we'll continue the conversation on homelessness.
As the year winds down, the storylines are ramping up.
Salt Lake City is the preferred host.
Homelessness in Utah has been steadily increasing.
Israel and Hamas are back at war.
It should be a really good snow season across the state.
Keep up with these and the stories still to come. Listen to Tim and Amanda in the morning from 5 to 9, David Dejanovic at 9, and Boyd Matheson at 1. And on your drive home, get breaking updates and Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News from 3 to 7. All day, all season.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Holiday Stories from Shane Company customers.
My girlfriend thinks we're going to my parents' house to decorate the tree. She has no idea that I'm actually planning to propose. The whole family's in on it, and Shane Company helped me create the perfect ring and stay within my budget. I went with a classic ring with an oval diamond. I tell you, that diamond, I can't wait to see the look on her face.
Shop the largest selection of unique engagement rings in hand-picked diamonds. 'Tis the season to shine. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
When it comes to your electrical system, do you know the warning signs to look for? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and it's okay if you don't know, but here are a few things that you might not even realize could be a sign of a bigger problem. Wall plates that are hot to the touch, discoloration around switches or outlets, if you hear crackling or popping or buzzing around switches or outlets, a breaker that trips a lot, switches that feel loose when you operate them, if your lights dim or flicker when a major appliance comes on, if your plugs fall out of the wall easily. You know, you're not supposed to have to bend the prongs out on a plug just to get it to stay in the wall. If you notice any of these things, you should consider having a licensed electrician check your system out. If you don't know anyone, Any Hour Services has put together a radio-only special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive electrical inspection and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. To schedule your comprehensive electrical inspection by a licensed electrician for only $29, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7300. That's 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. But right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
If you've been trying to get into that holiday dress you wore a few years ago and you can't get it zipped because you've gained some weight, boy, have I been there and done that. I can remember there was a time when I had 4 or 5 different sizes in my closet. And I think, are these the pants that fit me? Are these the pants that fit me? And then I'd have to find a sweater that was long enough to go over. And now, since I've lost this 34 pounds on Soda weight loss, my day is easier. I have, for the first time in my adult life, one size in my closet. You have no idea how much joy that gives me. People, you've got to check out Soda weight loss.
And here's the thing. This will be the last time you ever go through this process because they have the same goal that you do, not just to lose the weight now, but to keep that weight off. We've told you the average man loses 3 to 5 pounds a week, the average female 2 to 3 pounds a week. They can help you too and set your goals for the new year 2024 that is right around the corner. Reach out to them at sodaweightloss.com, spelled S-O-T-A. Think Tim and Amanda. It is state-of-the-art.
Mr. Mac's Buy One, Get One sale. Buy one suit for $299. Get the second for $100. Any style, any occasion. Free alterations in 9 locations. Mr. Mac.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We can have disagreements and still be friends. So often, I think people think that just because we disagree, that we're enemies. That we are not. We're great friends, even though we disagree.
I hope listeners take away something new every day, a new detail they hadn't heard before. And I also hope our show opens their minds to new ideas, new ways of thinking of things.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, Utah State Representative Brian King is starting a campaign to run for governor in 2024. That makes him the first Democrat to enter the race. Second, the water in Utah's snowpack was sitting well below average before this weekend storm. Now, it's slightly above average. And third, Bitcoin is having a bit of a resurgence. The world's largest cryptocurrency jumped past $41,000 for the first time in a year and a half today. Right now, it's cloudy, 48 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Maura Carabello, filling in for Boyd Matheson today. And we want to continue the conversation we started last segment with Governor Cox. We're going to continue talking about homelessness in Utah. It's something that has been on the rise, partly because of the circumstances in our lives. So we're a big growing state. And it's something that many of us feel need to be focused on. And as we discussed in the last segment, Governor Cox announced an agreement with local government to alleviate homelessness across our state. He's announcing that it's a statewide investment of $168 million in several different categories. And we have with us today in studio, I'm really excited, Wendy Garvin. And Wendy is the president and executive director of Unsheltered Utah. So for her, this is not a topic that comes and goes. It's a topic that she's devoted her career to. And I want to dig a little deeper, Wendy, about the governor's plan, where it hits the mark, what you would change about it. But before we dive into that, I want to have you give us a state of the homeless as we head into the colder months. What are you seeing this year? What's the same? What's changed?
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Of course.
What I'm seeing out there is we are continuing to increase the numbers of people who are experiencing homelessness. And as those numbers increase, our facilities are overcrowded. The service providers are doing a really excellent job of trying to find new ways to fit more people inside and provide services so that we have less people out in the cold. Mm-hmm. But that's leading to a side effect, ironically, what we were trying to fix during Project Rio Grande, which is the overcrowding, which increases violence and it increases sexual assault and things like that inside those facilities that we're trying to make safe places. And so and because of that, then we see people who are more reluctant to enter those facilities. And with the increased enforcement from Mayor Mendenhall's administration, supported by Governor Cox, now we have people who are going to jail rather than going into homeless shelters. And of course, that has its own serious set of civil rights issues and potential abuses.
Right. So as someone, again, who has done this over time, you've seen elected officials. I'm sure the good and bad of your job is well-intended people. I mean, with very few exceptions, most elected officials are well-intended, but they're also for short periods of time. I mean, that's what makes them powerful and interesting and good, and also what makes this process of seeing a political leader come and go. Let's dive specifically on what you said about there's always the tension between the long-term, what I see as causal, mental health, substance abuse, family situations, socioeconomics, which we know we can treat, but we have to take a long-term view. Also, what we use most often is the short-term tools. Those tools are law enforcement. Those tools are intervention on the street. I want to talk about one of the specific proposals that Governor Cox outlined that we spent a little time with him talking, which is about $10.6 million in what would be called HOME, which would be a new civil justice program. That is 10.6. Which he's saying would be a judicial diversion. So this question of what's the best process to engage with folks who are experiencing homeless. Talk to me a little bit about what you think of the judicial diversion programs.
I think that they are very well intentioned, and I think that many of those pieces are going to be very beneficial. It is always helpful to divert people out of jail into mental health programs or substance abuse programs that lead them to jobs and to housing and stability. Those are very good programs. However, the devil is definitely in the details. And one of the details that has me a little bit concerned is that we're modeling this program very heavily based on the Miami model.
Right.
And the Miami model includes a heavy dose of involuntary commitment. And if I can just share a few statistics from Florida, last year, 17.7% of the involuntary commitments in Florida were for youth under the age of 18, which is very concerning because that puts those youth into programs that almost inevitably put them in contact with more serious offenders or people with more serious issues. And so it does not necessarily give them the healing or support that they need. And in many of those cases, those involuntary commitments were done without involving the parents at all. So those parents sent their kids to school, and then at the end of the school day, when their kids didn't come home, they found out that they had been committed for some unknown length of time into mental health facilities. And so I think that as a state that very much values civil liberties, we are going to have to be extremely careful to not fall into some of the traps that we've seen in Florida. I think that's possible.
In your mind, is it the wording of the legislation? Is it the specificity of how those programs are set up? How do you avoid that? How do you stop the slippery slope there?
I think that some of the best steps might be very regular judicial reviews of anybody who's committed, as well as including medical reviews at that time to make sure that all of the players involved in that patient's care are there with a guideline towards release and freedom as quickly as possible, because the goal is to stabilize people on medication, get them to a point where they can work independently, which most of our people with serious mental illness can do, and then put them into a step-down facility where they have less intervention and more freedom to start going out and working on jobs and rebuilding family relationships.
So where are you seeing the other holes? Are we missing either categories or depth to some of our proposals?
I would say the biggest hole, especially in this area, is that we don't have enough facilities for people with mental illness. If we were to go out and commit everybody who has a serious mental illness right now, we would have nowhere to put them.
Right, and the governor pointed that out as well.
Mm-hmm. And that means that we are 5 to 10 years from really being able to implement this plan as intended. So we need to start. We need to move in the right direction. We need to put those guardrails in place to make sure we're not abusing this system. But we also just need the beds. We don't have any beds. And frankly, right now, today, if I were to call to get somebody pink slipped, which is our version of the Baker Act, most likely the police would refuse to do it because there are no available beds.
So, do we have the leadership structure that we need? I know, those of us who have been interested the last few years. There's a little bit of like, who do I talk to, right? Or who do I petition? Even do we have in Utah the structure that we need to address this as a statewide problem?
I think that we're getting there. I think that Wayne Niederhauser has built up the State Office of Homeless Services to be much more effective and more comprehensive. They're paying attention, which I wouldn't say was always the case in the past. There's a lot of varying results in the different cities. So where Salt Lake City is very involved and Ogden is very involved, we might not get a lot of input from Alpine or Highland or small suburban communities. And the truth is that our homeless population and our population of people with mental illness come from those suburban communities just as much as they come from the cities. So we need everybody involved. That's a big piece of it. And I would say maybe one of the things that we should be working towards is an ombudsman program for the homeless here in Utah, which means anybody who's experiencing homelessness can walk in off the street, submit a complaint about the system. They were abused at a shelter or their civil rights were violated by a police officer, and then that ombudsman office would be essentially representative, civilian representation to help them work their way through the system to get relief. We don't have anything like that right now, and I think that we really need it.
And that would be something you would be comfortable with if the state proposed it, or if it lived somewhere in state structure?
I think.
Or is it better sitting in the nonprofit world?
I would say it would be better run by a nonprofit. It would need funding probably from the cities and the states.
You're right.
But it shouldn't be fully funded by those organizations. It should have some private funding as well so that it can remain independent, because a program like that would be at any given time pushing up against any one of those. So if they had to push really hard against the city to the point that perhaps the city would want to withdraw their funding, they'd need funding from someplace else to stay stable.
Well said, well advocated. Wendy Garvin, the president and executive director of Unsheltered Utah. We really appreciate you joining us today. Hey, stay tuned. Coming up, Utah students across the state may not have to pay as much for public college. Let's talk about that and what other barriers may need to be removed. So stay tuned.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: the water in Utah's snowpack sitting well below average before the storm this weekend, and now it's slightly above. KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says there's more to it than just this one storm.
What we expect, what is normal for this time of year, is not a ton of snow, right? You're maybe looking at 70 to 100 plus inches of snow. You can easily sway the numbers with 1 to 2 storms.
Matt says if we want to keep a healthy water supply come spring, we need to be seeing storms roughly once a week. While this past storm had a big impact to start the year, it'll take a lot more than that if we want a positive outlook come April. If you're planning on heading into the mountains this season, then you'll want a pair of snow tires as well. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit reports.
All-weather tires can definitely see you through the season when you're careful, but snow tires are made to get you over those high-elevation roads. Burt Brothers Tire Director Chase Brooks says his snow tires helped him safely commute up Parley's Canyon during winter.
Brooks says you can keep your snow tires on your vehicle as long as the temperature isn't regularly above 45 degrees. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A former U.S. ambassador has been arrested and charged with spying for Cuba. Manuel Rocha served for decades in high-level positions in the State Department and had access to critical information. Here's Attorney General Merrick Garland.
To betray that trust by falsely pledging loyalty to the United States while serving a foreign power is a crime that will be met with the full force of the Justice Department.
Rocha was arrested after he allegedly bragged about his clandestine activity. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, 77 points. The NASDAQ is down a bit more, 146 points right now, about 1%. The S&P 500 down 31. And our KSL weather looks like we've got an inversion settling in over the valleys. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:32. We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Up to a 30% upfront bonus and 12% per year guaranteed growth for retirement. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and these are the highest guarantees with annuities I have seen in my life. When interest rates are this high, there are silver linings, and annuity guarantees are one of them. Up to a 30% bonus upfront for retirement income. On $100,000, that's up to $42,000 guaranteed in the first year. And it's because of the economy and its high interest rates. Don't let anyone, especially another financial advisor, tell you it's not true. Up to 30% upfront just for opening an account and up to 12% per year guaranteed income growth. Don't miss out. This won't last forever. If you have an old 401k, get up to 30% upfront and 12% guaranteed growth for income today.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Donate your car to Charity Hotline. This is Roger.
Hi, Roger, I'd like to donate my car.
Yeah, good. Leave the keys in it, park it on the street, and we'll send a thug. Tow.
Where's your office?
In New Jersey. Where do you want it to be?
Well, Roger,
yeah.
I want to make sure my donation helps Utah kidney patients.
It will.
Which ones?
Well, does it matter?
Yes, I want the money to stay in Utah.
And boy, have you got the wrong number.
If you want your car donation to help people here in Utah, turn your car into a kidney car for the National Kidney Foundation of Utah and Idaho. Hi, this is Luz Lewis Perez. Kidney Cars is the Beehive State's #1 choice for charity car donation since 1990. When you donate your car to Kidney Cars, funding stays in Utah to help local Utah kidney patients and funds local medical research. Kidney Cars gets donors the highest tax deduction, along with free towing. Visit towcars.org and learn more. That's Tow Cars with a K like kidney. That's TOWKARS.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Emergency crews are still on the scene of this earlier vehicle fire in Parley's Canyon. It's on the eastbound side of I-80, a couple of miles prior to Lambs Canyon. Everybody is over to the right. That right lane is blocked to traffic, but no delays. Peterson Art Center, give the gift of creativity with a gift certificate, good for any art or pottery class. It's the perfect gift for spouses, kids, friends, and seniors. The Peterson Art Center in Sugar House. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, high pressure over the west means several inversion days. Before another storm moves in, it'll be partly cloudy with highs in the upper 40s. And right now, we're at 50 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to this afternoon's version of Inside Sources. I'm Maura Carabello. I'm filling in today for Boyd Matheson. And I am 4 months into empty nesting. I had my caboose has started school, has started college. As those parents out there know, you're never done parenting. But we have hopefully, knock on wood, finished our last version of deciding what's next after high school. And Utah just had an important decision made by the Utah Board of Higher Education. The board voted to change the fee structure involved. Prior, you had to pay fees for every time you applied to go to college in the state of Utah, usually anywhere between $25 and $50. And these fees could stack up quickly if a student wanted to apply to multiple colleges. After a recent vote, that's no longer the case. The Board of Education has now waived those fees to get into college. We wanted to talk about that and maybe some other barriers and benefits to higher education. So joining us today is Sydney Tetro, who is the National Technology Leader and Innovator, founder and president of the Women's Tech Council of Utah, and a member of the Utah Board of Higher Education. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So, okay, you took this great step Tell me why it's so important and helpful that we're now waiving the admissions fee to submit an application.
You know, as a state, we've been really focused on, and as a board, how do you make college more accessible to all students? And part of that is affordability. You know, when you look at, education is just a really critical factor of our country, and we have to make it accessible. And so for us, this vote and this move was moving us forward to help remove that barrier for students applying to college. And even though it doesn't seem like, and it's a really expensive amount, it is a barrier. And anything we can do to make secondary education more accessible is critical to our state and our nation.
So I've read, you know these better, you've dialed these in more, but I've read these studies that you're right, that these small barriers at the start of the process actually are sometimes harder to overcome than maybe more complicated ones once you're inside any given system. So now that high school seniors can know that even if they're undecided maybe about what they want to do next, that there's just almost no risk, right? There's no harm, no foul in perhaps applying to colleges. I want to talk for a second about maybe the benefits still of higher education. If you were going to distill those, what would you be saying to high schoolers about the benefit of getting a postgraduate college education, degree or certificate?
Well, I think you hit one of the most important conversations happening right now, which is around affordability and college education. But what I will tell you is that in all the studies that we've reviewed, the average annual compensation for anyone with a degree or a certificate remains still roughly doubled that of those without a degree or certificate. And you should think about what that means over your lifetime. It is still one of those key indicators that helps on your average annual compensation throughout your entire life. And like you just said, if we can remove those barriers as those high school students or even people looking to come back to college if they took a break, they don't have to think about that application fee. They just have this ability to say, I am accepted into this opportunity and I can take advantage of that. It's a powerful tool for not only them, but their families, our communities, all of that ecosystem that sits around us as individuals. And that's what we're trying to make accessible.
So what's next? What's the board working on next? I mean, there's always a question of all kinds of affordability. Can you tell me what discussions you're starting to have now?
I mean, this is exactly where we're focused. You know, we're all new board members.
Okay.
Excuse me. We've only been in there for, 4 months or so, 5 months or so. And the questions you're asking me, these are exactly the ones we're asking of us as a state. Like, how do we unify as a system? And can we just continue to take down these barriers as we look at our 5-year plan and say our number one job is to increase the number of students who have access into education, who complete those certificates or degrees, and have these opportunities that come because you come through that. Affordability is one of those, but there's other barriers that exist around families and being able to balance all of those priorities of your life. And so we're seriously just taking a look at each one of those. And what we collectively think through is which barriers do we remove that have great impact first and keep moving through those. And what we saw is this was an amazing way to open up access. And as you look at the times that we're in, across the nation, the ability for you not to have to think about those fees and have the ability to apply to these universities, whatever stage of life you're in, and get into these universities and have education as an option, that's powerful.
So I'm going to take advantage of your dual role of both being a member of the Utah Board of Education and the president of the Utah Tech Council, the Women's Tech Council. So it used to be, correct me if I'm outdated, it used to be that more women in Utah started college, but maybe fewer of us made it across the finish line. Is that still true? Is there a big gender difference right now in those who are going to college?
So today, without having all of the exact numbers for you,
right.
I know in general more women are graduating college than men right now. And when you just we really did just review this report in one of our recent board meetings that talks about the fact that compensation is doubled, certificate or degrees. So you think about that. We need our communities. We need our students who are coming out of high school, girls and boys, to come into high school or come into college and complete those degrees. It just makes such an important difference. Education is kind of the fabric of our entire society being able to have that education and be able to continue to learn. And we have to make sure that our secondary education system supports workforce needs, supports the needs of the community, is affordable, and that will ultimately help us build a stronger community around us, which is what we all want.
So I loved what you said about there's so many of you who are highly qualified. You've just joined the higher education board, and so you're seeing it with fresh eyes. One of the things I think Utah has done well is work across post-secondary segments. So we not only have four-year colleges, we have community colleges, we have trade schools, we have boot camps, which would be maybe in the tech world, you're getting certificates. We have a huge history of entrepreneurship. How do you work holistically, not only just with traditional four-year education, but any post-secondary opportunity?
Well, I think one of the great things that happened in our state is a couple of years ago, all 16 public colleges came together, including our technical colleges. So whether you're in the technical colleges where you've got the certificates, or you have our community colleges, or our four-year degree granting, or even master's and PhD, everyone's now part of the same system. So when we make these changes, like the admission fee, we are doing it, or the application fee, we are doing it across the entire system, which is really powerful, and which I think makes a really important statement for our state in the whole country, because we did this as a system. And what we recognize is the system has to work together. You do need everything from certificates all the way to PhDs, and we have to provide all of those opportunities. And that's where our system's focused, which is, I think, what's making us a really powerful force in education moving forward.
So we only have a second left, and I'm going to give you an on-the-spot question that's always impossible. What were you most surprised or interested by as you joined the Board of Higher Education?
To be honest, I didn't know exactly what I was, jumping into because we were all new. But the thing that I have loved the most is that we have brought around the table, not just all of us on the board, but all the presidents of all of our colleges, all 16. And we're sitting around there and we're trying to take down the most important problems first and work as a system to do so. And I have been amazed at everyone's willingness to, even if we differ on opinions, have discussions, prioritize, and take stuff into action. And we have put an amazing amount of things into action in our 4 months. This is one of them. And that's what's going to make our ability to make a difference so powerful. And that's the thing I love. I love moving fast. I love making a difference. And I love trying things. And we might not get everything right, but the fact that we're moving, that's how we make change.
Sydney Tetreault, member of the Utah Board of Higher Education, thanks for joining us. There's more to talk about on the subject of education in Utah, so stay tuned. We're going to stay on this, and we're going to talk about a new free speech resolution that has been passed in the schools. I want to dig a little deeper on what that says, so find out next on Inside Sources.
The semi-annual sale is underway at Foothill Oriental Rugs. Jim Weber is with me. And tell us a little bit about your latest trips and the people that you're helping.
There's a guy I've dealt with in Pakistan. His name is Mahmood. He's Afghan, and he still has rug manufacturing infrastructure going on in northwestern Afghanistan, where they're doing the most beautiful vegetable-dyed rug production in the world right now. And I love giving those people work, because if anyone needs jobs, it's the Afghans. These Afghan vegetable-dyed rugs are just beautiful pieces of textile art.
Every time I come into the store, you have such a great variety for people to choose from. The other thing that really differentiates you from the other guy, they can even take them home if they want to.
It's hard to make a decision on a rug until you see it in the space, so we always encourage our customers to try them in the space before they make a decision. If you've ever needed a rug, this is a great time to come in and look at rugs, because our retail prices are better than the industry on average, and right now they're marked down up to 70% off.
Don't miss out. The semi-annual sale is underway now at Foothill Oriental Rugs, 1460 South Foothill Drive, just south of Foothill Village.
When words come out of our mouths and everything sounds fine, no one bats an eye. But if things come out a little jumbled or letters sound different than most, there's speech therapy. But did you know that speech therapy is used for more than just stuttering or disfluency? From articulation to expressive and receptive language to a simple act of swallowing that most of us take for granted, speech therapy can do amazing things for you, your health, and of course your sense of self. That's why Summit Speech Therapy is here. Summit Speech Therapy works with people of all ages, from infants and toddlers who have a difficult time feeding or eating, TBI, stroke, or coma patients, to children and adults with speech problems. So much of it is all related, and Summit Speech Therapy can help. Summit works with all insurance companies as well as private pay options, and the experience can be life-changing. With clinics up and down the Wasatch Front, including Murray, with no long waiting for an appointment. For more, visit summitslp.com. That's summitslp.com.
Home is your sanctuary, or is it? If you're looking for spacious living and ample yard space, stop by an open house December 11th, 5 to 7 p.m. to preview Nielsen Homes' newest Diamond E family home, just north of Salt Lake, making commute time easy. And these homes are move-in ready and have spacious yards. See the Nielsen Homes difference with spacious family living floor plans and nice-sized yards. Take advantage of amazing end-of-the-year promotions, too. Nielsen Homes has been building homes across the Wasatch Front for over 45 years to accommodate things you need with things you love during their open house event December 11th. Enjoy warm churros and free pictures with Santa and see just how great low maintenance and spacious family living can be. That's 5 to 7 p.m. December 11th at Nielsen Homes Diamond E Community, 2630 North, 3200 West in Plain City. Visit Nielsen Homes Communities at nielsenhomes.com. NILSON homes.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, there are a few places in Utah where apartment rents are going down. Second, a Democratic state legislator, Brian King, is planning a run for governor next year. And third, a former U.S. ambassador to Argentina and Bolivia has been arrested and charged with spying for Cuba. Right now, 50 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Maura Carabello here today, filling in for Boyd Matheson, and we're going to jump into a hot topic. It's been a busy week for the Board of Education. We just heard about waiving some tuition that were entry admissions applications, but I want to talk about something else that came up in a public press conference, and I'm really excited to have my friend, and we are co-hosts on KSL at night. If you haven't had the chance to tune in the evenings, you'll find Leah and I there. And she is also, a day job, is the Associate Professor of Political Science at Weber State University and the Director of the Olene Walker Center there. Leah Murray, thanks for joining me today.
It's always a pleasure.
It's great. So this is a little bit of a hot topic. Governor Cox, speaking at this board meeting, in public, gave some directives to our college presidents, college and university presidents, in which he says, quote, "I do not care what your position is on Israel or Palestine. I don't. I don't care what your position is on Roe v. Wade. We don't need our institutions to take positions on these things." The context of that, he said that the institutions should remain neutral, that college presidents who are interested in giving their opinion should quit and instead run for political office. So, I do politics for a living, so I'm going to just start out by saying, no, everyone should be engaged in our civic discussion. I think it's really important that we never send the message that only political people should be engaged in politics. And those of us who do it for a living are only good as the citizens who hold us accountable. So I would first, I don't disagree. If we zoom out, Leah, I think the governor wanted to focus on disruptive speech, on people who were interrupting events and inciting violence. And I think it's pretty mutually held that no one supports that sort of speech. So I'm going to put you in the hot spot too and say, hey, listen, so he gives a public directive to these presidents saying that our institutions, you work at one of those and you in fact run the political institute at that. How did that land with you? Maybe let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I think his intention is great. But
Yeah.
words matter on these topics. So as someone who works at a university, how do you take that in?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how you ask that, because as director of the Walker Institute, one of the things I'm doing is cultivating civic dispositions among our students, which means, and the thing I'm most focused on is having our students learn how to dialogue across difference,
Right.
To see the human behind whatever position you are deciding that they have. And so what you do is you have dialogue, right? And you bring in speakers, right? And the way that I initially had heard this was that administrative units on campus could not take a position, right? So it's the idea of being institutionally neutral.
Evoking the institution on a specific opinion.
That's right. And so the way I thought of that was, so if and you may know that earlier this semester we hosted George Will.
That's right.
The pretty prominent conservative thought leader, right? I was super excited to have him there, packed crowd, like
Yes.
everyone's listening to him talk. And I thought, well, then maybe if I'm reading this kind of tightly, I could not have George Will in the room, because it would look like Walker Institute was
supporting his position.
Right, was elevating George Will's conservative position. And because it wasn't a panel, Mara, right? Like it wasn't like I had.
He was just delivering his point of view, which
That's right.
I will say, George Will, we share a love of baseball. I love how articulate he is, and I love how much he writes. I disagree with him most of the time.
Right.
And he is one of my preferred readings.
Right.
So what is endorsement? What is to define an issue? What is to take a position on an issue?
That's right.
And again, I'm being semantic with our governor, but I felt like it was a failure of leadership. I feel like leaders should say, here's what my expectations are of their senior executives, to call out in public university presidents who I think are among the most revered. You've already passed a bunch of tests of being capable. So, you always have the ability to fire them, but I would have loved that left up to the universities.
Right.
And the unattentiveness of a directive is what bothered me about speech, because in America, I don't know that I ever think I want our leaders saying, here's what you can and can't say. I don't mind if our leaders say to us, here's outcomes that are unacceptable. Make sure those outcomes don't happen.
Right.
But to tell someone not to engage in political speech. Now, I'm also going to bust his chops a little bit more. This is a governor who 6 months ago had us praying for rain. And I'm not sure, and I mean, I supported that, right? But I'm not sure that would have been an appropriate policy position for him to take under his own directive.
Yeah, and I mean, that's such a good point, right? Because if the answer is institutional neutrality, and I'm thinking about our institution, and we just came out of Native American Heritage Month, right? So we celebrated the whole month taking a position about the indigenous populations in our country. There's a Women's History Month, and we have a whole month where we celebrate that affinity group. And then I just kind of think, okay, part of it that's in here, Maura, right, is that language of unsettled topics. And then I a little bit worry, well, what is settled and what's unsettled? So I get, right, so when we are able to talk about things, is it settled that women is an okay affinity group to talk about, but I guess it's unsettled, right? Any of the other groups you're going to do. And the thing, too, that I'm just going to point out and say is I just don't think this is a problem on Utah's campuses.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So I think we are pinging off of a national narrative that's basically East Coast elite private schools, and as someone who went to one of those as a kid, I feel like I can say that about them, where, man, things are feisty, things are nasty. In Vermont, 3 Palestinian American students were shot. This can get really intense. So I think that the intention is, how about we just cool everything down? I don't think that's a bad intention, but I'm just not sure anything that's happened in Utah warrants this level of public directive, just the way you're talking about it, Maura, that a conversation with, our university's leaders, I think I agree with you, might have been a much better way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it felt a little draconian, an overreaction perhaps. So let's talk about how the higher education institutions have responded to it. It appears as though they are drafting, I think, individual resolutions, right? Will each institution have their own written
That's right.
And the written part seems to be important. A written interpretation of what it means to take a position as an institution.
Yeah, that's right. So they've got until June 1st, 2024. And I know personally the poor person on Weber State's campus whose job it is going to have to figure out what is First Amendment law, right? But literally in my office today, Maura, a colleague was saying, I'm just going to teach my classes, I guess, and if you're someone like me in political science who talks about current events all the time, like nothing is settled.
Well,
Does that make sense, right?
And here's the interesting part. For many of us, we've been clear that the First Amendment, often the definition of protected speech is political speech.
Right.
So I pity the person who has to do this because we have been given the directive and it's in our foundational documents. This is sort of supplemental to that and interpretive, but I don't know that there'll be a person, particularly an attorney, who will be able to separate political speech from unprotected speech.
Yeah, right.
Or
and
from protected speech.
250 years of case law in the United States Supreme Court.
It's a tough
thing. Good luck.
Right. So what do they do? Do we suspect that this will serve as a cooling down period? We'll stop making statements, and then that'll move us beyond. I mean, they'll be making these directives. I think many of us feel like the environment that is going to percolate this will be the 2024 presidential elections.
Yeah,
right?
Although I do think it is in response. I mean, the fact that the governor said, I do not care what your position is on Israel and Palestine, it's about that, right? And so I'm not sure I disagree that universities should not be taking a position on like global events that happen, but parsing out what it means is going to be hard.
Leah Murray, a friend of the show, frequent contributor on KSL. She's an associate professor of political science at Weber State University. Leah, thanks for joining us. Hey, we have a lot to cover in the next hour. Number 2 of Inside Sources, including some breaking news, so stay tuned.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.
This is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, the Ogway People's Orchard and Garden in Salt Lake City has had its art mural vandalized.
It's like a demonstration orchard that can inspire and educate other community residents about.
That was Tom King, a nearby resident volunteer who's been working there for about 3 years. He says they hadn't had this problem until recently. He's already boarded the piece up and contacted the artist to repaint it in the spring. University of Utah quarterback Bryson Barnes is leaving the Utes. Barnes announced on social media he'll go to the transfer portal, but he'll have, he says, one last ride with my brothers in the upcoming Vegas Bowl against Northwestern. Barnes took over as the Utes starter after Cam Rising got hurt. The native of Milford, Utah, will be remembered for his heroic game-tying touchdown in the 2022 Rose Bowl. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at the White House briefing today saying it's important for U.S. lawmakers to vote for funding for Ukraine.
I believe that any member of Congress who does not support funding for Ukraine is voting for an outcome that will make it easier for Putin to prevail. That is, a vote against supporting Ukraine is a vote to improve Putin's strategic position. That's just an inescapable reality.
Sullivan says there are still conversations going on about releasing more hostages in the war between Israel and Gaza, even though fighting in Gaza has resumed. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average, down on the day still, but not as much. 41 points down right now. The NASDAQ still down 119. And our KSL weather, look for an inversion to bottle things up over the next several days. That's next. KSL News Time 2:02.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Dell's Cyber Monday event is their biggest sale of the year. Shop limited time deals on laptops like the stylish, innovative XPS 13, engineered to do it all on the Intel Evo platform. Plus, save big on ultra-sharp monitors and top brand accessories. It's the perfect time to upgrade any home, business, or gaming setup powered by Intel Core processors. Shop now at Dell.com/deals to take advantage of huge savings and free shipping. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
I'm so stressed about my business not being ready for the holidays.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
At Common Spirit Holy Cross Hospitals, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake and to extend the legacy of care in our communities. We're part of 20 hospitals and 240 clinics across Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
With our roots in northern Utah, Common Spirit Holy Cross Hospitals have a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. We're part of 20 hospitals and 240 clinics across Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
A lot of crews remain on the scene of this vehicle fire that has been there since the noon hour. This is eastbound I-80, a few miles away from Lambs Canyon. The right lane is still blocked. A new crash in Weber County, southbound I-15 near Harrisville Road, out of traffic on the shoulder. Cypress checking account members enjoy discounted rates on auto and RV loans, free access to their credit scores and reports, and a suite of other products and perks. Learn more at cypresscu.com. Cypress Credit Union. Your future is our future. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, high pressure over the west means we've got several days of inversions before another storm moves in to clear it out. It'll be partly cloudy above that with highs in the upper 40s. And right now, we're at 50 degrees above our predicted high for the day. Mostly cloudy at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas at KSL 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the expanded Inside Sources. I'm Maura Carabello. I'm filling in today for Boyd Matheson on this gray Monday, but I sure am excited to be here, and I'm excited about this next guest, mostly because I love new breaking news. And we heard this morning that an official launch by Representative Brian King into the Utah governor's race for 2024. He's officially kicked it into high gear. The Democratic representative in the Utah House has announced his bid for the governor's seat. He will be challenging Governor Spencer Cox. Also, another Republican, Phil Lyman, has thrown his hat in the ring. And it's been decades since a Democrat has won, but maybe this could be the year. Representative King, thank you so much for joining us. I should disclose that you are the great representative for District 23, of which I am a citizen.
It's true.
So I'm a constituent. I'll remind you of that at the beginning of this interview.
Well, I'll try not to say anything to
offend any constituents, including you.
Maybe I'll give you a little bit of background. You were elected originally to the House of Representatives in 2008. You were the minority leader from 2015 to 2023. You're an attorney by trade. You're also a small business owner or a business owner. You are an active Democrat. You're also an active member of the predominant church. So you have been in the public eye for, gosh, what is that? Almost 25 years?
15 years since I was elected.
So you know what you're doing as a representative. What are you thinking running for governor? No, like how did you make this big decision?
Well, I've loved the time that I've had in the legislature, and representing District 23 has been wonderful and fulfilling, filled with really wonderful people to be able to represent. But one of the things that has caused me to feel that I wanted to throw my hat in the ring was that I really feel like I've never felt in the time that I've been involved in politics that we've reached a point, unfortunately, where character has mattered less in politics. And we've got to get to a point where we elect people who are strong and unequivocal, both in terms of their character and integrity and their courage, and specifically their commitment to upholding the Constitution of the United States of America. I mean, it's sad that we have gotten to a point, that we are at a point where individuals running for office can't, and individuals who were voting for candidates can't take for granted that their candidates are committed to supporting the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. But we really are at that point, sadly. We've got an individual who's trying to run for one of the major parties who has made it pretty clear that the Constitution is there at times when it's convenient for him. He's fine with it, but if it's inconvenient, he'll just set it aside. And he said as much. And one of the things that troubles me is that I think we need as Utahns to recognize we've got a great thing going here in the United States of America. We have our problems. We have our problems in the state of Utah, but we need to recommit ourselves to the rule of law. We need to recommit ourselves to the Constitution. I personally believe that this is something that is actually divine and inspired, and I want to make sure that we uphold the Constitution. And the second thing, quite honestly, that bothers me about our current governor and too much that has happened up at the state legislature recently is government overreach. We've just had a remarkable degree of government overreach in terms of on reproductive freedom issues. The legislature has passed laws, and our last two governors, including this one, have signed into laws that significantly restrict our freedom and liberty about the most personal and private matters that we deal with in our lives. And it's shocking to me, quite honestly, that we have a party that has prided itself so much on libertarian values, on freedom, on liberty, saying we're going to pass these laws that have such a dramatic impact on the most personal and private decisions you make at times of great stress, at times of great difficulty, and they're difficult decisions for people to make. And yet, apparently the party in control of the legislature and the governor's office is perfectly fine with that. Well, I'm here to say I'm not. And I think most Utahns are with me in saying we're not fine with that either.
So this won't come as a surprise, but I want to talk about how tough this race is going to be. So some of the political stats that we know, or the last set of polling, Governor Cox is running in the high 60s, 68, 69. That support has stayed pretty stable. I believe the last Democratic governor we had was Scott Matheson. And so how do you run a race that's different? How do you launch it? How do you sustain it? How do people get to know you? How do you win a race like this?
Well, I've got a great team behind me, individuals that are committed to this. I've got my wife Ann is just an incredible support, but more fundamentally, I think that Utahns are at a point where they want to get past the labels of Republican versus Democrat. They want to get past Team Blue and Team Red, and they want to talk about things that matter in their lives personally, or the lives of their children or grandchildren, people that they know. This reproductive freedom, this reproductive access issue is something that affects most people. They either have experienced some issues in this area or they know someone, a child, a grandchild, a friend who has. So this means something to people, and it means something to people that what we're dealing with is trying to get away from this polarization that we face, where, you just stick a label on somebody and you immediately ignore everything that they have to say of substance. I was really encouraged, Maura, to see the leadership of the LDS Church come out a few months ago and say, listen, we think that if you're voting straight ticket, you're on the wrong page. You need to start thinking about, looking at, evaluating candidates individually. And I personally think that the things that I stand for are going to be things that resonate with Utahns and that they support. I'm a lifelong Utahn. I've lived here my entire life, University of Utah graduate. Too much of my money goes down to support BYU and their tuition, so I got to be a Cougar to some extent too. But the reality is that I think Utahns do find that their values are aligned with my own and with many of the things that Democrats in Utah are supporting: economic growth, making sure that we get the Great Salt Lake back to a better state of health, making sure that we have affordable housing, that we address that issue effectively, making sure that we address a huge gender wage gap. Utah is 50th in the country in terms of the difference between what men and women make when they have comparable jobs and comparable qualifications. That's simply not right.
So I want to talk about sort of the challenge of a challenger, the underdog, is that you need to draw contrasts between you and the person in office. How do you draw a contrast and not be labeled as negative? Or take us through differentiation between a negative campaign, because, I think you should be held accountable if that's how you go, and a campaign that just points out the differences between you.
No, thank you. That's a great question. And it's something that I'm very comfortable with because I'm a lawyer, I'm a litigator. I represent folks who have had denied insurance claims. I sue insurance companies. I'm in court all the time. And some of my best friends are defense attorneys, people that I go to dinner with, and people that I spend time with socially and enjoy my time with them. So the key is you've got to be unequivocal and strong in staking out differences on policy issues. And I'm going to do that on things like reproductive rights and issues like the Great Salt Lake and our clean air issues. There are things that we need to be doing more and differently than what my Republican colleagues and specifically Governor Cox has been doing. But you never need to make those things personal. They just don't need to be personal. And to the extent you see a politician or a candidate who does make it personal, they're on the wrong track, period, full stop. And we see that too often with some of our candidates for various offices, both national and state, that they want to drag their opponent through the mud personally. That's just wrong. It's unnecessary. And that's, to the governor's credit, when he talks about disagree better,
right? That's
what he's talking about. But our motto, one of the slogans for the campaign, is disagree for the better. I think that there is virtue and positivity, that it's a good thing when there is competition between ideas and we have a chance to present the ideas, debate them on the merits without getting personal, and then take the best of both competing ideas and come up with some synthesized policy that reflects the best things for the better of the state of Utah.
Representative Brian King, he is the former House Minority Leader, currently representing District 2, just threw his hat officially into the ring to run for governor of the state of Utah for 2024. Representative King, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Maura.
Coming up next, Speaker Schultz is going to discuss which issues are gaining traction as we take a closer look at the next legislative session.
As the year winds down, the storylines are ramping up.
Salt Lake City is the preferred host.
Homelessness in Utah has been steadily increasing.
Israel and Hamas are back at war.
It should be a really good snow season across the state.
Keep up with these and the stories still to come. Listen to Tim and Amanda in the morning from 5 to 9, David Dejanovic at 9, and Boyd Matheson at 1. And on your drive home, get breaking updates and Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News from 3 to 7. All day, all season.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and already this holiday season, I had the chance to sneak off to one of the opening nights and see Elf, and I saw it all by myself. Why? Because the whole family is going to go see Elf here in about 2 weeks. That includes Dee's family flying in from Missouri. We absolutely love the productions at Hale Center Theater. But Elf, I'll tell you, it is so much fun. And if you love the movie, there will be so many things that you love that you saw in the movie, but so much more when you get the HCT treatment right there on that beautiful state. Don't miss your chance to see Elf. Go to hct.org and lock down your tickets right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that this is the time right here, right now, to get your tickets for A Christmas Carol. It sells out each and every year. Don't miss that amazing family tradition. It's waiting for you now at Hale Center Theater.
I'm so stressed about my business not being ready for the holidays.
Uma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Uma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Uma?
Yep. Switching to Uma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Uma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Uma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Uma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
Hey, it's Amanda, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A nugget trays is that they're so easy for the holidays. They're warm and flavorful. It's always a crowd pleaser. When I put down a nugget tray, everyone is happy.
Hey, this is Brian, and the little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A nugget trays is the joy that it brings to me and everybody around me during the holidays. They're warm, juicy, and delicious.
Cater the holidays with Chick-fil-A today. Available on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
In 400 AD, a forgotten time in ancient America, warrior prophet Moroni must preserve the history of his fallen nation while being hunted by a ruthless tyrant.
Where is the brave general now?
From Freestyle Releasing and Great Scott Entertainment comes
The memory of my God,
The Oath.
my faith and my freedom, my wife and my son.
The Oath, coming to theaters this Friday. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. More information is available at oathmovie.com.
This time of year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change. Something to look forward to make you feel grounded, and to give you the tools to manage everything going on. Learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Salt Lake today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Salt Lake, and get 10% off your first month.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, vandals have damaged murals at a community orchard and garden in Salt Lake City. Second, U of U quarterback Bryson Barnes will likely be playing somewhere else next year. He's entered the transfer portal. And third, a top White House official says opposition to aid for Ukraine in Congress will make it easier for Putin to prevail in that conflict. 50 degrees right now, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Maura Carabello today, filling in for Boyd Matheson. And while we are hearing jingle bells, many of us also are marking our calendars because we're almost a month away from Utah's legislative session, where lawmakers have 45 days to vote on hundreds of bills that will impact Utah. And what those of you who follow politics closely know is the fall and into the winter are the setup times. Anything can happen during the session, but as we get more and more complexity and volume, we know that these are the months when leadership is spending a lot of time on cultivating the issues that they will focus on and shaping the agendas. So we are very lucky today to have Speaker Mike Schultz with us to give us a little preview of what they're working through as the session approaches. Speaker Schultz, thanks for joining Inside Sources.
Oh, Maura, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you and your listeners.
Okay, so I have so many questions. So just keep in mind, I'm gonna have more and more as we go.
You have a lot of questions. I mean, that's like the first shocker.
But tell me how you've got, I think 3.5 weeks under your belt as speaker. How do you, but you've been, sorry, I didn't mean to give you that extra week. How do you start shaping an agenda as a leadership team? I know you work with both the Republican and Democratic leaders, but give us a little inside scoop on how do you start shaping out how you're going to run through those 45 days.
Well, you know what, Maura, that's a really good question. And I'll tell you, it's a little bit different this year because we had a whole shakeup in our leadership team because Speaker Wilson resigned 2.5 weeks ago. Speaker Wilson resigned.
So you're fulfilling the end of his 2-year term.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. So I have the opportunity to fill his term, and then we had a new member of elected leadership that was elected, and he moved in. That was Representative Casey Snyder, and then everybody else moved up. But then that also created a couple holes in the extended leadership team for a new rules chair and some other new chairmanships and stuff. But so it's been a little bit interesting having to deal with all that, and so. We kind of had to put a little bit of the stuff that we normally do on hold. And so it's put us just a little bit behind, but we kept working towards what the ultimate goal is. And that's, how, like you said, how do we shape what's going to happen this legislative session? And the one thing that I've noticed is you can never plan for everything. Mm-hmm. There's always things that come at you that surprise you that you just can't predict. But I think it's super important that you look at, okay, what are the big issues? What are the big issues facing the state? And that's a process that we actually start right after the previous legislative session ends. So we generally start that in April. We started it in April, for example, of this year, which was about a month after the legislative session ended. And we do that by bringing together the chairs and vice chairs in the majority caucus to what are the things you heard going through this last session? Where do you think we're going? What do you think are the most important things? And that's the process that we go through. And then once the chairs and vice chairs put that together, then that goes on to the leadership team. We get and make our mark on it. And then today we're actually together in West Jordan at the Mountain America Credit Union, going through all these priorities with our caucus for what we call the education day for our caucus. We come together all day long. We go through what we think all the big issues are. We kind of come up with a game plan. We talk about all the bills that everybody's running, and so that we're taking a more targeted approach at these priorities and making sure we have buy-in with our caucus instead of the shotgun approach. So we really want to try to work hard for the citizens of the state to make sure we're focused on the things that are most important to them as well.
So let's talk about a couple specific issues. Will you continue? Former Speaker Brad Wilson was very focused on water conservation and saving the Great Salt Lake. Yes. Where does that come out as a priority for the Speaker Schultz era?
It's top. It has to be top. We don't have a choice on this, Maura, because Utah is the second driest state in the nation. And, we need to do a little better job in how we use water, to be honest with you. You look at some of the other states that even get more precipitation than we get in Utah that are not growing as fast as Utah is, and they do a better job of water conservation and making their water go further than what we do as a state of Utah. And so I'm really proud, honestly, of the work that we've done so far and the mindset with the citizens of the state that's changed and the policies that we've put in place so far. But, so we don't have a choice. We have to do it. We have to find a balance between how do we make sure we maintain and continue to protect the Great Salt Lake and actually get it up to healthy, sustainable levels. But then also, how do we, we're a growing state, one of the fastest growing states in the nation, and it's because of our kids and our grandkids. And so how do we find that balance? And that's what we're focused on. It will still be a top priority for me.
So Utah particularly...
And our caucus. Yeah, and our caucus. It's a top priority for them as well.
So Utah has long focused on transportation and infrastructure.
Yes.
Last week, we heard a big announcement as public of an indicator as we've had to date that the 2034 Olympics will be held in Utah. With the coming of the Olympics, what does that mean to legislators who are preparing perhaps to partner with the federal government and take advantage of the Olympics as it relates to infrastructure dollars?
Well, maybe now the federal government will actually pay attention to us, right? We hope, because they don't generally pay attention to Utah, to be honest with you. And so we're left to do a lot of it on our own, which is fine. We do more for infrastructure in this state of Utah than almost any other state in the nation. And so we're going to continue to build upon that. But it is going to have to look different, Maura, to your point. Transit is going to have to continue to be a more important role and play a more important role as we move forward. But I think the biggest thing we need to do is we need to look at the projects that we would probably build that are maybe 15 years out and look at and say, okay, what's it going to be like in 10 years when we see the Olympics come to the state of Utah? And we probably need to try to work to fast track
Because won't we have
projects.
to start funding those, or at least consider them in the next session or two?
But you look at just like it happened in 2002, right? The whole rebuild of I-15 going through Salt Lake County, transit, all those things happened because of the 2002 Winter Olympics. You'll see something similar happen again, prior to the 2034. We have to. And it will benefit us after the Olympics leave. We'll have that infrastructure there to be ahead of our growth in many cases.
So, clean air has been a perpetual problem, and we have both improved our air quality tremendously over the decades, and we also have horrible air quality at the same time. And, a lot of it's our geography, we can say that, but nonetheless, we have bad air quality. How do you tackle a perpetual problem like air quality?
Well, you're right. I mean, you're right, Maura. It's just the geographical nature of the basin that we live in. And
our love of cars.
And our love, the air in the 1890s was worse than it is today. So it was well before cars were established in Utah. But it's because of the geographics of our state. And it is a problem. And, it's better than what it was even 10 years ago. In fact, the first 5 years I was in the legislature was about, that was 5 years ago. We passed more bills to address our air quality concerns and to make it better than had been passed the previous 100 years. And so it's a topic that the legislature takes serious. It's a topic that we are moving the needle. Our air quality is getting better today than what it was 10 years ago. But we can't relax on this. We have to continue to make progress and moving forward, and we are focused on that. Conservation, land stewardship, those are all things that are huge to me. I care so much about the environment that we live in. The Republican caucus cares about the environment that we live in. And so it will continue to be a top focus and a top priority for the House of Representatives moving forward.
We only have about 10 seconds left. What else should we be watching for as the session starts?
Well, energy. I mean, energy is going to be a key component as we move forward to try to houses are electrifying, which is good, but then we have to ask, where does that energy come from? And you have, John Kerry, who just announced to the world that we're doing away with coal. Yep. But he didn't say how we're going to do that. And so, we have to ask those questions. So, we have to protect our reliable, sustainable, dispatchable energy. At the same time, find enough energy to provide the needs for our growing community and the transition over to electric, which will continue to help the airshed that we live in. So it's a balance. It's going to be important.
Mike Schultz, Speaker of the House of Representatives for the state of Utah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Maura. Have a good day.
You too. Coming up, political ads, positive? Are they effective or negative? Stay tuned. We'll talk about it in depth when we come back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. It's Avalanche Awareness Week. Forecasters say the latest snowfall has made northern Utah's mountains very risky. KSL News Radio's Peter Johnston has details.
Picture an inverted birthday cake with soft, powdery snow supporting up to 4 feet of new and heavier snowfall. That's how Avalanche Center forecaster Craig Gordon describes the current status of the slopes. The Wasatch Front and back are covered in that wet blanket from Provo to the Idaho border. The Forest Service's Avalanche Center rates the Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden, and Logan areas as the second to highest risk level, and Gordon says the danger is especially high for backcountry skiers and snowmobilers.
Gordon says the best way to ski for now is on low-angle slopes that aren't below a steeper run or to visit one of Utah's resorts that does avalanche control. Senator Mike Lee seems to have changed his mind on a January 6th conspiracy theory he took to X last month to call for an investigation into the congressional committee assigned to look at the insurrection after additional video footage was released. He originally claimed one of the alleged rioters was a federal undercover agent. That theory was debunked. The man was later identified as a rioter who's now serving time. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Police in Los Angeles made an arrest over the weekend in the case of a suspected serial killer tied to 4 separate homicide cases. 3 of them were homeless men. ABC's Keena Whitworth.
Police say 33-year-old Jared Powell murdered someone every day for 4 straight days starting November 26th. Authorities say they traced Powell by tracking his license plate and said they positively identified the handgun found in Powell's car as the murder weapon. And they fear could be more victims.
That's ABC's Keena Whitworth. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today down 41 points is all. The NASDAQ was down 119. The S&P 500 was down 24. And our KSL weather, it's going to take us a day or two to get out from under the inversion now. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:33.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Guys, does she need a little escape this year? Introducing Cozy Escape Pajamas from Pajamagram, America's PJ experts. These PJs are just the getaway she needs. So take that time off and plan a holiday staycation. Cozy Escape Pajamas make the perfect gift for your special someone who deserves a little rest and relaxation. Treat her to luxurious next-level cozy signature soft fleece. They're as light as a dream and will keep her oh so warm, like snuggling in her favorite blanket. She'll love to cuddle in Cozy Escape PJs on those extra chilly nights. With Pajamagram, you can even add gift packaging. Order now for guaranteed delivery by Christmas. She's missed out on a lot of things she loves this year, so this Christmas, give her the escape she deserves. These new PJs are selling fast, so order today. Go to pajamagram.com right now. That's pajamagram.com to order Cozy Escape Pajamas. Pajamagram.com.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care would love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Give someone a watch that becomes a family heirloom. J. Brooks Jewelers. Online at jbrooksjewelers.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Back to a problem-free drive on all of the freeways, including eastbound to I-80 and Parley's Canyon with an earlier vehicle fire. That's all wrapped up. You have good speeds throughout, no accidents on any of the freeways, including I-15 in Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties. Transform your outdated kitchen with half-priced granite. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, starting at $25 per square foot installed. Visit halfpricedgranite.com. Affordable luxury. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, high pressure over the west means inversions are here for a few days until another storm moves in. It'll be partly cloudy with highs in the upper 40s. And right now we're at 52 degrees, higher than the prediction for today, and mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomis, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources on this Monday afternoon. I'm Maura Carabello, and I'm filling in today for Boyd Matheson. And as the country draws closer to the 2024 presidential season, we are going to start seeing a lot of political campaigns. They're going to range from a lot of campaigns from the presidential candidates. We're also going to see a governor's race that will be contested in Utah and all the other statewide races. And if you live in an early state, or if you did, or if you have friends and family who live in states like Iowa or Ohio or Pennsylvania, they're already going to tell you that they've been flooded with those ads. I remember as a young poli-sci student, I used to think that I wish we lived in a state sometimes that had more, political ads, until I visited a cousin in Cincinnati, and it was so quickly overwhelming because political ads can evoke a lot of emotion, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I have worked in public policy for almost 30 years, and I have been in the past the person who writes political campaigns. And we wanted to take a deeper dive, a closer look at political campaigns, what they're trying to accomplish, and maybe what they get out of us, and giving us a better point of view on what we should be listening to, maybe what we should be reinforcing, and maybe what we should be ignoring. What we're seeing now is some presidential candidates in the last couple of weeks have released positive ads. And these campaigns are high-impact messages. They are positive, and they're intended to be this part of the process. If you are a political consultant, what you know is conventional wisdom is you start out with introductory campaigns. It'll be a little different for someone like President Biden, who has almost near perfect name recognition, meaning we mostly know who he is. Most of the voters do. For someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, who is trying to establish himself. But the thing they teach you is the conventional wisdom is you start out by introducing yourself. You do this through a personal story. You want to humanize yourself. And the goal of this is to start associating a brand with the human that you are. Like, how do you want to present yourself to the world? And these tend to be incredibly positive. And they tend to be, frankly, some of the better ways to establish what the campaign wants you to know about their candidate. But they do happen super early in the campaign. There's a question about whether we remember them. To give you a taste of this, we wanted to pull some cuts from some campaigns that are currently, these ads are currently on the airways, and what you would be hearing if you lived in a state like Iowa, you'd be hearing these right now. So first I want to show or play a cut from a campaign from a Republican candidate for president, Vivek Ramaswamy, and this features his former piano teacher.
I know Vivek Ramaswamy because I was his piano teacher. I would teach Vivek about the Constitution after his piano lesson. I taught Vivek to love liberty. Vivek is a true conservative. I put him in that same category with Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. He has the same ability, and he's not afraid. I think our country would be very blessed to have Vivek. He would be fantastic.
So think about all the things that evoked from us, from the patriotic music she was playing, to the connection that he had teachers in his life. She repeats again that he's a true conservative. What a great example. It was reminiscent of, for those of us who can remember Ronald Reagan, he is iconic for A New Day Dawning in America. That was an uplifting point of view. It was forward-looking and introduced him as both a patriot. And think about all those symbols. In the Holy Grail of political speech is to personalize something. So make it about the listener. To make it simple, which is not to say dumb it down, but to say, it's an easy to understand while we're doing other thing. But the third is to have symbols, and think about all the symbols that positive ad had. To give equal parts, here's a current Joe Biden campaign highlighting his role in improving American healthcare system.
My name's Jody. I've been a pediatric nurse for 18 years. I love what I do, but we definitely need more support. The last administration's policies were so troubling, and our healthcare system has become a business, and people are becoming billionaires off the backs of sick people. I've seen the heartbreak when parents are trying to figure out how they're going to pay for a medicine to keep their kid healthy. But we are seeing lots of positive changes, and thanks to President Biden and Vice President Harris, families can afford medication now. The Biden administration lowered the cost of prescription drugs and passed laws to make healthcare more affordable. The idea that we could go back to the policies that helped the rich get richer and left so many people behind, I don't want to go back.
So I want to talk about emotions, because emotions are what we are wired to respond to. Even those of us who might be a little left-brained, we're analytical, we like to read, we like to consume data. That helps us, but you can never leave out the emotional connection that we have for those who represent us. And in these positive ads, patriotism is an emotion that you can feel when you listen to them. You can also feel a like-mindedness. They feel comfortable. They feel like us. So golly, why do we not stay with positive ads? We just heard examples of 2 terrific personal ads. So we often say, why do campaigns go south on us? Why do they become so negative and snarky? Why do we do that? Well, I'll tell you, because you and I respond more to the emotions of fear and anger than we do patriotism, like-mindedness, positivity, humanization. So I think just the awareness of that is really important. I'm just going to play one negative ad cut. This is a Joe Biden campaign ad this is an attack ad by the DeSantis PAC attacking Nikki Haley and for her previous comments about Hillary Clinton. Let's play that now.
We know her as Crooked Hillary, but to Nikki Haley, she's her role model, the reason she ran for office.
I often say that the reason I got into politics was because of Hillary Clinton.
She said, and that's the reason you absolutely have to. And I walked out of there and I said, I'm running for office.
Hillary Clinton is actually the reason.
You write about her being a big inspiration for you in terms of a leader.
She is actually the reason that I made the jump.
Dark music, intense beat, kind of makes your heart rate go up a little bit, calling people's names, making fun a little bit, using words like crooked and liar. When we read or hear things like that, if our kids ever said that, we'd say, hey, listen, we don't talk like that. So why do we respond to it? Well, fear and anger are often, even subconsciously, we know that they're responsive. We wanted to go through the ads today as the season started, the political season started, because knowing why you respond to ads will let you decide if you are picking a candidate based on the emotion of what you're hearing, or you're using both data and the emotion to go through it. And boy, 'tis the season. We are headed into what will be a very active political year. And now you know whether in your mind do positive ads work, or are you letting your subconscious be subject more to those negative ads? So coming up next, I'm going to share some final thoughts on this Monday. Stay tuned.
As the year winds down, the storylines are ramping up.
Salt Lake City is the preferred host.
Homelessness in Utah has been steadily increasing.
Israel and Hamas are back at war.
It should be a really good snow season across the state.
Keep up with these and the stories still to come. Listen to Tim and Amanda in the morning from 5 to 9, David Dejanovic at 9, and Boyd Matheson at 1. And on your drive home, get breaking updates and Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News from 3 to 7. All day, all season.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. Podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact Todd Larson at KSL for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. Email tlarson@ksl.com. That's tlarson@ksl.com.
Hi there, it's Scott from Pentatonics. So from the beginning of our journey in music, the foundation has been music education. It's so incredibly important that we continue to show kids the importance of music in our schools, in our homes, and even in the car. Music is such a powerful expression of emotion and individuality, and we are responsible for keeping the love for music alive. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
Bill Riley here with University of Utah head football coach Kyle Whittingham. Now tell me, Coach Whitt, what's your philosophy on a winning team?
I believe the key to winning is a strong offensive line. When the linemen do their job, nothing gets through to the quarterback, so he can do his job.
Well, what happens if the linemen don't do their job?
Ouch. You know, Bill, I recently learned that kidneys work like linemen for your body. When your kidneys work, they block poisons and chemicals from your blood.
Coach, I've heard that 1 in 9 Americans have some form of kidney disease. What can we do to fight back?
Join me, Coach Kyle Whittingham, and be part of the winning team against kidney disease. Donate your used car or truck to the Kidney Foundation. Your car will be towed for free, and you'll get a receipt for a tax deduction. Tell them how to do that, Bill.
Donate your car to the Kidney Foundation today and make your car a kidney car. Cars to save lives. Call 1-800-TOW-CARS. That's TOW CARS. Cars with a K. 1-800-TOW-CAR.
Every year, the National Kidney Foundation helps individuals and families affected by kidney disease. Help them out by making your car a kidney car. Call 1-800-TOW-CARS.
Hi, I'm Celeste Edmonds, Executive Director of the Christmas Box House. When I was a foster child, Christmas felt like something that was for everyone but me. Christmas should be for all children. The Christmas Box is working with the Utah community to provide Christmas for nearly 2,800 at-risk children. To learn how you can help today, please contact us at thechristmasbox.org or Google us. Thank you and happy holidays.
This is Richard Paul Evans. I'm excited to announce a new book I co-wrote with Celeste Edmonds, director of the Christmas Box International. It's called Garbage Bag Girl. Years ago, I wrote a best-selling book called Finding Noelle based on Celeste's life. I always wanted to write her full story. Now I have. Warning, there are graphic parts. Her life was difficult, but ultimately, this book is about hope. I love this book. You can buy Garbage Bag Girl on Amazon. Garbage Bag Girl, now on sale.
Two friends taking pictures of the rising full moon on a summer night.
Two teenage kids doing what teenage kids do.
When a stranger with a gun and a death wish changed everything.
It was violent, it was senseless, and I will never understand it, I will never accept it.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and unfortunately, we're all too familiar with stories about how violence shatters lives. But what we rarely see is how they are rebuilt. In a new podcast, The Letter, we relive tragedy, but only so we can hear the rest of the story. The struggle to reclaim lives, the realities of grief, and the possibilities of forgiveness.
I believe in miracles. Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, our big snow over the weekend means big avalanche danger in Utah's mountains. Second, Senator Mike Lee was saying an undercover government agent was involved in the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Turns out that person's already doing time. And third, a suspected serial killer who preyed on homeless people has been arrested in Los Angeles. Right now, 52 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Maura Carabello. I have been lucky enough to join you for the last 2 hours on this Monday, And I want to close with a terrific story brought to us by a 7th grader, a Utahn, who goes to Olympus Junior High School. We should start out always by giving the school a shout out, Olympus Junior High Schooler. And she turned 13 2 weeks ago. But here's what this story is about. She just won in Santiago, Chile. She just won some medals on behalf of America. I'm reading she's got a silver medal in the backstroke and a bronze medal in the women's 2,000 individual medley. And she did this representing America and Utah in the, again, 2023 Parapan American Games. And when we all have the Olympics on our mind, and as you remember, when we host the Olympics, we'll also help host the Paralympics, and the Parapan American Games are a lead up to this. She was chosen as one of the youngest people to be asked to join the team, so she joins at just 13 years old. And not only does she do well, but she wins a silver and a bronze. So we're lucky to have Chloe Cederholm with us to talk about what that experience must be like. Chloe, thanks for joining us on Inside Sources.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, so you were in Chile, I think, last week, right? Aren't you just back a few days now?
Yeah, I got back last Sunday, so it's been like a week now.
Okay, so you're 13 years old. You've been swimming since you were 4. Is that right?
I have been swimming since I was 4. I've been doing swim lessons, and then I got on my first swim team when I was 6 years old, Olympus Aquatics.
Wow. Okay. And I'm going to add you have a rare disorder that causes weak bones, muscle fatigue, and makes normal activities and sports difficult. And it can also make swimming a little challenging. But you're saying the water is your healing place. Is that where you started to go to recreate, and now as a world-class athlete, this is where you also do your training? Tell me what it's like for you to be in the water.
Every time I get in the water, it's just so amazing. I feel like I'm just meant to be there. I feel like it's like my home. I feel like every time I get in the water, I'm just like there. I'm fully in the moment. I'm fully just there, you know?
So this was a big stage. Like, this was a really high stakes thing. Do you feel the difference between maybe just a local meet and this? Like, why is it? Do you feel pressure, or can you just tune all that out?
Well, swimming is a sport where you can practice every day and try your hardest, but sometimes you don't swim faster right away. And going to this meet, that was definitely on my mind. But as soon as I got there, I was just truly living in the moment, and I truly enjoyed it. I got to spend time with Team USA, who made me feel like I was like home. And obviously I was a little bit nervous, but I just kind of let all my stress off, and it was really great.
So I know I'm always mixed when people say, okay, you've achieved this big thing. And then we can't help it, Chloe. We always say, and you're 13 years old. Do you feel young? Or you were the youngest member of the U.S. team, is that right? And do you think age makes a difference when you swim?
I do believe when people say age is just a number, that is true. But at the same time, when I was there, I did feel younger compared to a lot of people because they were taller than me or just seemed a little bit, I don't know, more mature and like they've done many things like this before. But honestly, I felt like I was meant to be there.
So in order to be an athlete of this caliber, you have to have some discipline. What advice? Okay, so I don't know if this is true for you. For every swimmer I've always known, you're early birds. You are like rolling out of bed when it is still dark. So what advice do you give for people for staying at a goal even when any given boring day of the week is so boring? Like it's so hard. It's so challenging when nobody's watching. How do you keep your motivation? How do you keep your discipline?
Well, like Dory says, you just got to keep swimming because if you don't go for something, you'll never know what would have happened. You cannot go back to that moment in time where you decided not to do something. You don't want to have the regret of wondering.
And so the yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So when you don't want to get out of bed in the morning to go to practice, or you don't want to have to stay at that long 5-hour meet, you just got to think about what your ending point is, what your point B is, what you want to reach. And just think about how you love what you do, and just go back to the times where you've had the time of your life doing what you love, and just know that you have a goal that you are trying to reach, and you have to stay with it.
So how has your family helped you along the way? I mean, in fact, we heard about this story from one of your cousins. What is your parents' role? What's it like for the rest of your family as you jump into attaining these amazing goals?
Well, it's been really fun. My family is so supportive. My dad is like a coach to me. He has helped me prepare for this meet, and my mom is my biggest supporter. And all of my siblings have other things going on in their lives, and they are able to still help me with what I do. And my grandparents and my cousins and aunts and uncles, they've been so supportive through this all. And every time I get off a plane and go to see them, I'm always so excited because I know how much they support me.
So what's next for you?
Amazing.
So the 2023, the Parapan American Games were just in Chile, as we've been discussing. What's the next big thing on the horizon for you that you're looking at trying to achieve?
Well, my biggest goal is Paris 2024, which might sound crazy, but I'm still going to go for it because who knows what will happen. I just have to try. I just have to go for it. And I'm just really looking forward to the journey. I know I have to work hard, and that's what's so exciting. That's what gets me up in the morning and gets me to go to practice, is just thinking about what I can become.
So one of the things I think is pretty cool about what you're doing is you also get to support our nation. So I'm sure your club has a uniform. What's the difference? Like, what does it feel like to put on? I'm assuming your swim cap has a U.S. flag on it. What does it feel like to represent a nation?
I remember when I got my cap, they have the veterans, is what we call them, on Team USA, give you a cap. And Keegan Knott, a swimmer, she won gold in one of her races at the Parapan Games. She's super sweet, and she's a super hard worker. She gave me my caps, and I remember when she handed me them, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting this since I was super young. And I just couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to think. And I remember putting it on for the first time before my race, and I was like, wow, this is really on my head. I really have my country's flag on the side of my head.
Chloe
with my last name.
Cedarholm, a Utahn who brought home the gold for Utah. Thanks for the silver for Utah. Thanks for joining us. It's been great to be with you this afternoon on Inside Sources. Be sure to stick around for Jeff Kaplan's afternoon news. As always, as Boyd says, do something that inspires.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.
This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 52 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. KSL's top story. Utah's governor has revealed his top budget priorities for 2024. Last year, it was the Great Salt Lake. This year,